The Pentagon Papers was a critical study in process of the history of the United States involvement in the Vietnam War, but even before there was a war, starting at the end of World War II, where Truman was helping the French, with their elections to. I think they made a deal during the war that the French would be able to stay in Southeast Asia, stay in Vietnam. And Truman helped him to do that with a $10 million investment in the French, in their interest in Southeast Asia. And I think it was a little bit of diplomatic, I'll rub your back if you rub mine, but there's something did happen that's in the Pentagon Papers between Truman and France. The study was a secret study. McNamara, initiated a secret study of our involvement in Vietnam, dating back to Harry Truman, through the Truman administration, the Eisenhower administration, and then the Kennedy administration, right through the Johnson administration, and then where our film begins, what Nixon knew and how he was involved. And this was all part of the study. And it showed that we were really fighting an illegal war, and an unwinnable war, a war that the study kind of stated was unwinnable. And yet we fought on 5, 6 more years after it was discovered that this was a war that we really didn't have the kind of resolve to win. Katharine Graham was the publisher at this time of the Washington Post. But there were people at the Post, and there were people in the industry, in the publishing business, that thought that she was a de facto publisher. This movie deals with that. This deals with Katharine Graham's reluctance to make big commitments to big decisions. This story is as much about leadership and about the birth of a leader as it is about the birth of a national paper, once a local paper called the Washington Post. Probably the biggest decision Katharine Graham was presented to make, and a decision that she very easily may have decided to defer, or simply, decide not to jeopardize the IPO and jeopardize all the livelihoods of all the employees at the Washington Post that could have all been let go had this gone in another direction. So this was a critical time in her life. Ben Bradlee was the commander-in-chief of the newsroom, and maybe Kate Graham was the commander-in-chief of the news organization with her television holdings and other publications. But he was the captain of that ship, Ben Bradlee was, just the same way he was the captain of a ship in his early 20s in World War II. And he ran it like a kind of a benevolent military operation, because Ben Bradlee was a tough guy, but he also had a sweet spot in his heart, and he liked people. And as impatient as he sometimes could be, he had infinite patience, which kept everybody a family. He really held that entire news office together, that floor of that newsroom together. That was a family, handpicked by Ben and trained by Ben, and turned into one of the greatest news families in history. What Liz had written, the premise and the idea and the critical study and the beautiful personal portrait of Katharine Graham that Liz rendered in her draft was enough to get me to say, I might be crazy, but I think I'm going to make a movie right now, and it's going to be called The Post. I cannot imagine anybody else playing Katharine Graham the way Meryl Streep acquitted the nature of her character and plumbed the depths of her life in under 2 hours. I don't know how Meryl did it, and I'm the director. I was there every day. I was there for every shot, but I was absolutely agog at the truth Meryl was telling, playing Katharine. I was just every day, and I had to stop myself from doing nothing but complimenting her. I had to just hold back and do the work with her, because it was an extraordinary transformation. Tom and I both knew Ben. Ben Bradlee was my neighbor for many, many years. He lived right across the street. He and Sally Quinn lived right across the street from me on Long Island. And we saw each other every summer. So I knew Ben, and Tom knew Ben as well. And I thought that Tom brought the essence of Ben to life in his portrayal of Ben Bradley. The first thing I noticed was she had a great body laugh. She would throw her head back and just roar with laughter if something struck her funny. And I just loved the fact that she was uncensored that way. And she was an extremely warm person. She just invited you to open up your life and tell her anything she wanted to know. I mean, she was really good company for that hour and a half, and I never forgot it. Well, I've been very blessed in having great ensemble casts on everything that required an ensemble company of performers. You know, I was lucky. I got all my choices on Saving Private Ryan. Everybody I wanted on Lincoln showed up and came to work. And the same thing happened on this. No one was unavailable. All my first choices were available, and somehow, and the few that weren't, we worked out the dates with the producers on the projects they were currently engaged with, and so it was just all sort of fell into place, so, as if this project in 2017 was kind of meant to happen. I think I'm the least intimidating person I've ever met, but obviously that doesn't hold true for other people who don't know me. I just find making movies to be a kind of a team collaborative effort. I don't believe in movies. It's not an autocracy, you know, in film. It really is, you know, gathering the best ideas together to tell the best type of story. And I had the most amazing collaborators on this one. You know, to have Meryl, you know, who is what's the word? Unarguably the greatest living actress of our time, and I say that without hesitation. I had Tom Hanks, my dear personal friend, and my collaborator for our 5th film together, with me directing. This is the fifth film we've made as an actor-director partnership. And Tom continues to surprise me every time we work together. It's kind of like I didn't know he had this character in him, and he does. Isn't that great? And then the other cast members, you know, from Bob Odenkirk, you know, Carrie Coon, and Sarah Paulson, who plays his wife, you know, Ben Bradley's wife, Tony, and you know, and everybody on the newsroom floor. It's just, you know, Tracy Letts, the Pulitzer Prize-winning, Tony-winning author, playwright, who was amazing playing Fritz Beebe, and Bradley Whitford, who plays an incredible kind of, let's say, naysayer or Richelieu to all the wrong people as Arthur, you know, Parsons, the character, a bit of a nemesis of Kay Graham's in this story. I think what makes the story really empowering for women today is you watch Katharine Graham grow into the job. You know, she's entitled, she's empowered with tremendous authority, which she doesn't use all the time. And it's almost like that she is in a room assisting the person who is supposed to be doing her job because she hadn't yet found her voice. And it was great within this span of time and through this huge event of whether to publish or not publish, depending on papers, you got to watch this woman find her voice and achieve and fully fill the shoes of the position that requires that kind of not only image, but commitment, personal commitment. And once she was able to personally commit herself to doing the right thing, I think she changed. And I think she was a whole different person from that moment on. You know, it's interesting because when John and I, you know, John usually plays all the sketches of everything he's going to perform with the full orchestra on the piano for me first. And I think just because we didn't have much time, everything was so crunched. This is one of the few times I've gone to a John Williams scoring session having not heard a note. And I just sat there and, as usual, loved every note John played. You know, his tremendous restraint with the score for the Post, and then coming right out and you know, being strong musically when it needed it. And this is our 44th year working together.